When divorce is inevitable, walking through it can be one of the most difficult times in a person's life. And when children are involved, co-parenting is usually what the family works toward. But what if co-parenting isn't an option? Some wisdom now from Pauline, creator of Perils of Divorced Pauline.
So I was going through this really horrific custody battle and felt like I was falling apart. I was having a hard time sleeping. I couldn't eat. I was losing weight. I was spending all my time worrying about what was going to happen. And in a previous life, I had been a writer. And so I thought, I'll start a blog. Everybody's blogging.
Some divorces just take on a life of their own.
I remembered that there was actually a serial, like a sort of collection of small movies back in the beginning of the 20th century. And there was an image, there was a still from that serial with this black and white, kind of grainy, with this sort of dastardly man who had tied a woman to railroad tracks. And there was like a train in the background. And it's a very funny, kind of melodramatic image. And I thought, that's kind of how I feel, because I had this really rich, vengeful ex-husband who delighted in torturing me.
For Pauline, which is not her real name, hence our interview in shadow, a satirical look at what she calls a high conflict divorce was the only way to move through it and beyond. Her blog, The Perils of Divorced Pauline, offers another look at parenting, where co-parenting is not the solution.
There's something that's actually called parallel parenting, where you really just don't get involved with what the other person does in their house. And I think especially as a mother, it's very hard to do. It requires a lot of letting go and just accepting that there are these things you can't control.
Pauline explains sometimes conventional wisdom doesn't always work. She says more than 6 different therapists just didn't get it.
None of the therapists understood. They would sort of say these bits of conventional wisdom, which I think are appropriate for 2 reasonable people in kind of a regular divorce. You know, don't talk badly about the other parent, or, you know, your kid is really fine, he'll get over it. You have to co-parent, you have to figure out the things you can agree on, and none of these things worked. And it made me feel really lonely. It made me feel like somehow I had failed.
What Pauline can control is her blog, and now other parents and children in similar family situations don't have to feel alone.
It's been really gratifying for me. I've had all kinds of women email me or comment on my blogs and say, I thought I was the only one going through this. It's so lonely, it's so awful. It's so helpful to know I'm not the only one. I've had adult children of high conflict divorce write me and say, now I get, you know, like what my mother did to my dad, and he's been out of my life for years, and I'm going to try to rebuild a relationship with him, and it really hurt my childhood. And I think there's something very powerful about suddenly not feeling isolated, and you have this community around you.
Now, Pauline wants to be clear, her blog is not meant to be a bashing of her ex, it's simply her reality. Divorced or not, Pauline has a lot of advice to offer. Log on to her blog at perilsofdivorcedpauline.c.